Rabbi Manis Friedman, I'm breathing out and saying, thank God it's Tuesday. Have I been waiting for this moment for the longest time? This week has been something else. Censorship, lies, manipulation, antisemitism. I don't know. Jewish people announce a wedding, they get more paparazzi than Beyonce. What is going on?
What exactly is your question?
Torah, help. It's not even the question anymore. It's just we need some sanity, just breathe in some sanity. This last week has been something else. It's just amazing how people can say something and stick to it, and the truth does not matter. We want to find truth in our lives with the real truth. We can't even get the obvious truth. How do we deal with today's world? It's getting seriously insane.
The world needs therapy, huh?
Yeah, and each one of us in it.
Well, the Zohar, Kabbalah, describes this world as Alma de Shikra. It's a world of falsehood. But more literally, not a world of falsehood, a false world. That's pretty serious. It's not that there is dishonesty in the world. The whole world is dishonest. Its very existence is not true.
I think we're living up to the name.
Fully.
Yeah.
So at least that's true. We're not faking being fake. So if we trace things back to their source, the falseness comes from the world itself. And so the change that we need is in the very existence of the world. So it's not enough to teach people to be honest. So what is dishonest or fake about the world? It doesn't admit to its creator. Nature seems to insist that it has its own independent existence. So something interesting about modern science. For a long time, maybe most of history, people who were secular believed that the universe always existed. The earth always was. Then science discovered that it's not true and that there had to be a big bang to bring the world into existence. So here's the catch. Here's the intellectual problem. On the one hand, we discovered that the world didn't always exist, but then it came into existence. If you don't believe in God, how are you going to explain that? So what they're actually doing is looking, to put it in very simplistic terms, they're looking for a tiny little universe that always existed. An atomic-sized universe. In other words, they really haven't given up the idea that the world always existed. What they did is they went from a big world existing always to a tiny world existing always that suddenly became a big world. So it's like that peasant in Russia who went to see the first locomotive. And it was called the horseless carriage because it moved without a horse, which is impossible. So he watched as it ran down the track, and his conclusion was, there must be a little horse hidden inside. Because without a horse, wagons don't move. So in the same way, modern science cannot get it through their head that nothing existed and then was created. So they keep looking for the little horse that always existed. An atom, no, a subatomic particle. Something smaller than a subatomic particle, but a little horse there has to be somewhere. That's the fake world that we live in. So the very existence of the world is already a lie. Because you see a stone lying in the field, and the stone says, well, I was always here. I didn't come from anywhere. I just am. I am. Not I was created. I am. It takes intelligence, philosophical thinking, to recognize that the stone wasn't always. And that's what gives us freedom of choice. But this game of the world denying a creator and human beings figuring out that there must be a creator, enough already. I think what you're expressing is we're bored of this game already. Why can't the truth just come out and be obvious?
My sentiments, exactly.
Why can't a president or a minister, a prime minister, or a king, or an emperor, why can't they admit that without God, they cannot run the country? I mean, it's so obvious once you think about it. So why can't it be obvious when you look at it? Why isn't it on the surface? Why do you have to look beneath the surface to find the fundamental truth? From there, it deteriorates. It gets worse and worse. Everyone comes up with their own lie. So if a king, a human king, can run a country by himself, then why can't the other guy who thinks he might be the king, why can't he be convinced that he could run the country and is running the country behind the scenes, that he is the real king? And it just goes on and on and on. And the same is true in every family. I decided to marry you, so you are my spouse by my choice. How dare you disagree with me?
Rabbi Friedman, you said to us, don't look at the facts. Don't listen to the commentaries. Now we're looking at the facts, and they're still being denied. It's, here's a fact, and I'm sure you know what I mean. We have a whole hard drive pointing out, nobody is disputing it, except the people who comment, which of course in our case is the media. There comes censorship. There comes everything. So we're seriously being manipulated to think the way somebody needs us to think, and the facts are no longer relevant. How do we deal with that situation?
On a cosmic level, this is like a showdown, a final showdown. How much longer can what is false maintain itself? How long can you keep a lie going? So we know that the lie of communism, it lasted 70 years, and then it couldn't anymore. How long can lying in general, falsehood in general, how long can it go on? So now we're seeing a final confrontation. And that's the ultimate battle, not a physical war. The ultimate battle is, can falsehood still maintain itself? Can it compete with the truth endlessly, forever? Or is it pretty much over? I think it's over. It has gotten very blatant. The chutzpah is incredible.
Let's translate the word chutzpah. Not everybody is on the same page.
There's not a good translation of the word chutzpah. Somebody said, chutzpah is somebody who kills his mother and father and then asks the judge to be lenient because he's an orphan. That takes a lot of chutzpah.
Well, that's a perfect description of what we're living right now.
So for the falsehood to deny the truth is a great chutzpah. A chutzpah means a claim with no justification. How can you insist that something is when it really isn't? How long can that go on? And it's not a question of how long can you fool people. Like, you can fool some of the people some of the time, but you can't fool all the people all the time. That's just a description of the human condition. But on a cosmic level, truth and falsehood exist independent of a human being. How long can that go on? And that's really what the showdown is all about. Once and for all, is true or not? And if it is, then what is this denying? How long do you keep on saying it's not raining when it's obviously raining? Well, not so obviously, but it is raining. How can you keep insisting that it's not? This is God's world. How long can you keep insisting that it's yours? We are here to serve, not to manipulate, not to control, not to govern. We're here to serve, like from the minute we are conceived. How long can we keep denying that? This is the showdown, and in a very short time, it's going to be over. They'll beat their swords into plowshares. The sword represents falsehood. He who has the sword rules. Really? That's what makes you a ruler? That you have a big sword? It's fake. The plowshare, that's truth. So the showdown will produce the swords being turned into plowshares. But since we don't need plows anymore, because everything is motorized and modern technology takes care of it all, it's going to be even better. We'll turn swords into books, books that tell the truth. So I'm optimistic, as you know.
And that's why we count on you every week to get us to the same point. Because it's actually pretty hard to be optimistic. Things are just really out of hand.
Yeah. But this is what the prophecy, the Torah tells us, that you will be exiled for many years. The Jewish people will be oppressed. Instead of being the teachers, they will become the victims. And many years will go by, and we will reach rock bottom. The world will reach rock bottom. And then, in the end of days, we will realize our mistake. Not through miracles, but just through maturity. 3,000 years of maturity. We're very slow learners. So it took 3,000 years to test every possibility, every form of government, every kind of education, every kind of philosophy, from one extreme to the other, from the most depressing, fatalistic, negative philosophies of the meaninglessness of life, to the most optimistic, to the most arrogant, self-promotion. Human beings are the greatest. The human condition will overcome everything. From one extreme to another. We've tried them all. We've tried them all. We've been through it all.
Rabbi,
and there's only one conclusion.
Mm-hmm. Rabbi Friedman, it's just, by now everybody should have realized what's going on. Really. It's time already. Yet there's still that separation. And how big that separation is, how many people are realizing what's going on for real. That's actually what is causing the anxiety. Well, in me at least.
Well, there's a large population of people who have discovered what is true. The rest are discovering what is not true. The disillusionment. They don't know what the answer is, but they know that they don't have an answer. And as much as they bluff and make it sound like they know, and they have, and they're going to succeed, they know they're not. It's such a shallow confidence. So they know that the answers are not good answers. They're just not ready for the right answer. But in a minute that can change. In a minute. And this year will give us many minutes.
I'm just curious. I mean, realistically, yesterday, the Satmar wedding got more paparazzi than any A-list movie star in the last year since the COVID. I mean, I don't think they're there to expose what they think they're there to expose. I think it goes way beyond. It's almost like they're looking from the outside in, wanting to discover what.
One of the really fascinating developments of the last month or so, for most of history, fanaticism was always religious. Who are the fanatics of the world? The religious. When you say fanatic, almost immediately you think religious fanatic. This last month, I think many people discovered Orthodox Jews are the least fanatical people in the world. Political people are much more fanatical. Environmentalists are much more fanatical. The medical world is much more fanatical. And the fanaticism is frightening. It's frightening. I don't know if religious people were ever this fanatical. Let the whole world burn and go down in a flame, but I'm not changing my mind. So it's almost laughable. If it wasn't so dangerous. The fanaticism has moved from religion to every other area.
Rabbi Friedman, when we're talking about religion and fanaticism, let's bring censorship into it. The popular belief is that religion is the ultimate censorship. It tells you exactly what to do, what not to do in every aspect of life. So is censorship good for you? For us?
Nobody wants censorship. But we do want good taste. It's not that we should censor some books. We should develop an appreciation for good things so that bad books or bad press or bad statements are just not doable. So we want to improve our values, not our control of the press. And I think that that's why freedom of speech and lack of censorship was championed and promoted in a democracy. We don't need you to prevent me from printing stuff that is tasteless because I have good taste and it's not going to happen. That's much better than fighting the bad taste by not letting it have exposure. So there was a time when people were really not afraid of the press, because what are they going to say? Mostly good things. So let them say it. And even if you don't agree with it, it's not offensive. It's not dangerous where it should be forbidden. Now we're so not sure of our own opinions, of our own values. Now we're starting to think maybe we need to censor some of this vile, ugly, hateful stuff. But censoring it is not the solution. So there are religious Jews who are very devoted, very intensely committed to not gossiping. You're not allowed to gossip about people. So they're fighting it intensely because it's pretty common. People gossip. And their policy is bite your tongue. If you see something about another person that is wrong and inappropriate and so on, don't talk about it. Don't even hint at it. Be so careful not to say anything negative eventually you're going to bite your tongue so much you're not going to be able to speak at all. What does Chabad say? What's the Lubavitch philosophy? The Lubavitch philosophy is, why do you have negative things to say about people? Don't bite your tongue. Clear your mind. See positive, look for positive, find the positive. Don't walk around with so much nasty information about people that you will not share because you're a tzaddik. Now, sure, if you do happen to notice something negative about another person, of course you shouldn't go around talking about it. But the problem is not that you're talking, the problem is that you're noticing negative things. Why do you have to notice negative things?
It's very natural for a lot of people. First thing they do, that they notice the negative.
Right. And then it's very natural to say it. So if you're going to fight the nature of saying it, why don't you fight the real problem? The nature of looking and seeing negative things.
Well,
I'll tell you this funny example. Two guys are sitting and talking, and one of them gets a phone call from his wife. His friend is listening to the one-sided conversation. His friend is quiet, and then suddenly his friend says, on the phone, his friend says, "Drop dead." He's shocked. He's talking to his wife, and he says, "Drop dead." Then he's quiet for a while. Then he says it again with more emphatically. He said, "Drop dead." The phone call is over, and the friend says to him, "How could you talk to your wife like this? What is wrong with you? You've lost your mind." The guy says, "No, you didn't understand." He says, "Don't tell me I didn't understand. I was sitting right here, and I heard you say it not once, but twice. You told your wife to drop dead. What's wrong with you?" He says, "You didn't understand." He said, "What didn't I understand? I know what drop dead means." His friend says, "No, you don't know. My wife bought a new wig, and she asks me if it looks good." So I said, "Drop dead." He said, "Really? You really think so?" I said, "Drop dead." You see how we misunderstand, and do you have to assume the negative? You know your friend. You know he's happily married. You hear two words, and all of a sudden you suspect him of wishing his wife were dead? But what is wrong with you? So what should the friend have thought? When he hung up the phone, his friend should have said to him, what were you talking about? What did you say to your wife? What is this drop dead business? No, he immediately assumes that he meant it. Why are you so... Don't you even know your friend? You know, it's completely out of character for him to say such a thing. So in a second, you turn against your friend and assume that he is some kind of a lowlife that wishes his wife were dead. That's got to stop. You hear one little negative statement about somebody you know pretty well, and what you heard is completely out of character, and yet you're immediately willing to accept it. That's such a low opinion of your friends and of people in general. So here's the real question. If I hear someone compliment their wife, I figure, yeah, sure. He's just saying it. He can't mean it. His wife is not that gorgeous, you know. But when he says, my wife is miserable, I say, oh, yeah, right. Mm-hmm. Sure. Why is that? Why is the negative so much more believable, acceptable, interesting, entertaining? The good? Nah, not really.
Why?
Some guy gave a lot of charity to a very important institution. You know what people say? Yeah, I wonder why he did that. Is that a tax write-off or something? Why do you do that? Why can't you accept good as really good? Why do you have to be suspicious and undermine it and find something negative to say?
What is the answer, Rabbi Friedman? Why?
The answer is we just don't have values. So we fall naturally. We let gravity just drag us down to the lowest denominator. So it's not a question of biting your tongue. It's a question of, what are your values? How do you see things? I told you, after the Rebbe had a heart attack, the doctors told him he has to be very careful. He can't talk too much. He can't carry on business as usual. And the Rebbe was not taking it very seriously. So the doctor said, 80% of people after such a heart attack don't recover. The Rebbe didn't react. So the doctor said, 80% chance you don't recover. The Rebbe said, 20% chance I do. So why do you have to emphasize the negative? So it's just neglect. If you don't develop a value, then gravity will control your life. So you'll naturally go down to the lowest level.
Rabbi Friedman, but we've been told all our lives to see a glass half full, not half empty. People know about that.
Yeah, that's only for yourself. My glass is half full. Everybody else's glass is not only half empty, they're running out of gas altogether. So we have to apply it equally. Look, the world has been, just talking for the Jewish people as in particular, the world has been very negative. Is it safe to say that antisemitism was pretty universal not very long ago? Is it safe to say that in World War II, the whole world was against the Jewish people in different ways? Some more active, some less active, but the whole world was okay with Hitler's ideas? It's pretty negative. For the Jew to be optimistic about the future of human beings is pretty impressive. I just heard from a professor in California. In the year after the war, the biggest birth rate, the greatest birth rate that year was in the DP camps.